and it is after week one. Everybody has played in the NFL preseason week one. They're getting ready for preseason week two. We've got a lot of injuries, a lot of news happen. Obviously, we'll go local first, and I'll start with the Giants. This looks like a Raiders jersey, but this is a New York Giants black alternate jersey. Eli Manning. So
I wouldn't have
neighbors,
guessed.
what's
No.
up?
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wasn't sure. It looked like maybe it was Brady
That's
Quinn
what
or
happens.
something like that.
You work
But
at a
okay, go
sport.
ahead.
That's what happens when you work at a sporting goods store for 13 years of your life. You find some different buys there. The Giants, neighbors. Can he be this good day to day with the ankle, but having high praise from a lot of different sources? Lions coach Campbell said they had joint practices. They said this kid's the real deal. He's Chase 2.0. Ankle is worrisome, but he's saying he's no problem for week one. What do you think?
Yeah, all I'm hearing is he's a monster. I'm hearing that it's going to make Arizona regret drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. It seems like he's the real deal. It just seems hopefully he can get a quarterback. Daniel Jones can get it out to him. Seems like these LSU receivers are ones that are like a force to be reckoned with. So hopefully he keeps a good, strong training camp going and into the regular season.
So talking about Daniel Jones and who will be protecting him, the offensive line needs to protect him because I watched the offensive line block for Drew Lock, and it wasn't all their fault, but Drew Lock looked awful, in my opinion. He got banged up. He says he should be fine. He's already apparently back throwing the ball on practice field, not taking hits, but got hurt. And who looked great? My boy, Tommy DeVito looked great. The fans love him. What do the Giants do? Because if they try to sneak him to the practice squad, somebody's going to probably nab him because there's a lot of bad quarterbacks in this league. And the kid at least showed he's competent enough to run an offense, at least in short spans. So I wonder if what's going to happen with Drew Lock looking awful and banged up and Tommy looking great. What do they do with that situation? Any thoughts on that?
I think the Giants have to hope that Daniel Jones is somewhat decent this year, because I almost think that if he's not, Tommy Cutlets can kind of turn into somewhat of a distraction, basically because every fan loves the backup quarterback. He's the most popular guy. And the second that Daniel Jones starts to throw a pick or do something wrong, it's going to skip Drew Lock. Forget Drew Lock. It's just everyone's going to want Tommy Cutlets in the game right away. So hopefully they may have to put him on the practice squad and may have to somehow maybe be better if someone else nabbed him up because as a Giant fan that he is not the guy. I think that Daniel Jones has a higher ceiling than Tommy Cutlets has. So, that I think we've seen the ceiling of Tommy DeVito. Maybe we've seen Daniel Jones, but at least Daniel Jones got you to the second round of the playoffs. So, I think it'd be better if he wasn't on the team just because of the distraction-wise. I don't know what you think about that.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Tommy DeVito could be ceiling, because he's still young, could ceiling be Gardner Minshew, where he bounces around a bunch to be a competent backup quarterback, and then maybe some franchise is so awful and has no options, and it's like an Aiden McConnell or a Tommy DeVito. Like, I'm not saying he's going to the Raiders. I'm just saying, like, if you put him in the Gardner Minshew's a couple years older, maybe that is what Tommy DeVito could be, somebody who is a competent backup, and if he gets on the right team that's having trouble finding their future quarterback, he gets at least a shot to compete.
I wouldn't say he's on Minshew's level. I would say more the Aiden O'Connell. I know if the people need a quarterback, he can definitely right the ship or hold it, make sure it doesn't collapse. So he's not one of those like Zach Wilson was, where Zach Wilson came in and the season was over. I think he could keep the ship afloat. I don't think he's someone that can make a Tim Tebow-esque sort of run through a playoff and somehow win a playoff game at all.
Yeah. All right, so quick for the Giants, things I'm looking for. They got the Texans and the Jets, obviously, in Game 2 and Game 3. Rumor is Jones is going to play Game 2. It could be literally 3 plays. We don't know. So we'll look for that. I want to see how the first-team defense does, especially against the Texans. The first-team defense is playing against C.J. Stroud, and Steph Diggs and Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I want to see Mixon. I want to see how the first team defense does, especially that front seven that's supposed to be so good. I again want to see the Jones to Neighbors connection if Neighbors plays, but with the ankle injury, who knows if that's going to happen. And one of the things I said I wanted to look at, which looks like it's not going to happen now, maybe for the whole year, the kid Tracy, looked like he was solidly in the RB2 on this team discussion, and now got carted off the field today. So
don't they have another rookie back that did pretty well in that first preseason game?
The kid who did good he's a sophomore back, Gray.
Okay.
He was on the team last year, so he was listed as a third back. Especially, what people have been saying, talking heads out there. So we'll see, because now it looks like if Singletary's not playing in the preseason game, then you'll get a lot of Gray, and we'll see what happens from there. Switching gears to the Jets. I wrote these notes before the trade request came out, and Hassan Reddick, who got traded to the Jets, is now requesting a trade away from the Jets. I joke around that Jets are just finding ways to jet, but in my opinion, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's so many reports saying that they acquired this guy, and the thought was bring him in and talk to him, and he understood. They just wanted to see him in good faith, come to the field, start showing he was a Jet, even if the season didn't start yet. And then they'll start talking contract negotiations. Something changed. And at least that's what the rumored reports are, and that now he didn't even come to camp, didn't come to mini camp or OTAs, and now he's not coming to the preseason. So we'll see what happens there. Question I have for you about the Jets. Mike Williams, we know him. We play fantasy football all these years. Can he be somebody? He's already practicing, which they didn't know was going to happen at this point already, this early. And can he be somebody who will take attention away from Garrett Wilson? And we know Aaron Rodgers throws the ball. Can he take doubles away from Garrett Wilson and open him up?
Sure. No, yeah. His always thing was staying healthy. That was always his thing. He's always been a deep ball threat. Before I get onto that, I kind of want to go on the Reddick thing really quick. It's all part of the process. I don't think the Jets are actually under any pressure, really. They still have a stout defense without him. I know the huge thing is a pass rusher. I know that's the big thing, and that's why Chris Jones held out with Kansas City last year, and that was a whole thing for a little bit. It's all part of the process. But I think we all know that their season depends on if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy.
Yep.
I think as long as the defense is average, I think Hassan Reddick needs the Jets more than the Jets need Hassan Reddick. And I know it looks bad that they just traded for him. They traded a third-round, possible second-round pick for him, and it does look bad. But I think that they're more in a power position in this case. Mike Williams, yeah, they need another deep threat for Garrett Wilson. It seems like that Rodgers and Wilson have that same chemistry that they had that we all heard in camp last year. Seems like him, and even Breece Hall with those dump downs in the backfield. Yeah, if you get that over the top guy that can just run go routes and open up the field for your Garrett Wilsons, even your Allen Lazards, even the Breece Halls, it can only help if he's to get a deep threat that can hit, get the top off the defense. I think it's a plus. Stays healthy.
Yep. And actually, that's one of the notes I had down that you mentioned when you were talking about the Jets' air attack was Breece Hall, reportedly, from everything I've seen, they say that he is being a check down master. Aaron Rodgers is looking for him a lot in the flat, and he's going to be a factor. A couple things. Let's actually go to you. We'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys, then we'll go around the league.
Yeah. All right. So Dallas Cowboys, normally media darlings, America's team, supposedly. I mean, at least that's our name. We're not really America's team anymore, but that's besides the point. There's really not really a lot of preseason like matchups we really got to look forward to. We know Dak's going to be cool. We know all the starters. We pretty much know offense and defense. It seems like the big thing in preseason with them, and it seems like every kind of year lately, has always been with contracts. Whether it's Dak, whether now it's CD, it's going to be Micah Parsons next year, probably next training camp. And it seems like I'm kind of downtrodden now as a Cowboys fan to see them go to the playoffs every single year, or most years, especially lately, and just have so much. Oh, they're going to the NFC Championship. We're the ones that can challenge the San Francisco 49ers or the Philadelphia Eagles or whoever it is at the time. And this is our chance to go to the Super Bowl. And I've always been on that train. Maybe Dak will push through, but it seems like common denominator last 25 years or so has been Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is in front of the media every single day. And I don't know any owner / GM that you hear from all the time. We don't hear from Joe Shane every day. We don't hear from Joe Douglas every single day. Just kind of going with the Yankees Mets. We barely hear Brian Cashman, except when the Yankees do bad, it seems like. We don't hear Stearns from the Mets, really. We hear more from Cohen, if anything. Jerry Jones seems to be the guy we hear every single practice, and the media just knows that they just go to him and they give him sound bites for days.
The gift that keeps on giving, Clark.
And I guess if I was a reporter, I would do the same thing. I would just go right to Jerry Jones because he's going to say something stupid. And whatever he said about CeeDee Lamb, he pretty much said that he's not missed. And he did the whole backtrack kind of BS where he said, oh, yeah, he's missed, blah, 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 all that bullshit, everything like that. Jerry Jones needs, whether it's step aside or whatever, hire a GM, give out some of the power, whether it's, I don't think it needs to be Stephen Jones. He needs to hire somebody else. There are the days of the Bill Belichick being the GM of the team. That obviously didn't end well. He needs to step aside. And I think the pressure, you never hear Mike McCarthy. I haven't heard Mike McCarthy all training camp. You won't even think he's the coach of the team.
Maybe it's by design. Maybe he wants to take pressure off Mike.
Maybe he's telling Mike McCarthy, get the hell out of the way. Because it's my 80-year-old turn to talk because I haven't talked every single year. And he needs to step aside for the Cowboys to do good at this point because I'm convinced that we're not going anywhere. We'll do the whole thing. Yep, we'll do 10-6 or 10-7, 11-6, maybe 12-5. I don't think we're winning the division this year. And I think the only chance – I don't think it's going to happen, though, because it's his team. Why is he going to do that? But I think the only chance is that he needs to step aside somehow. I think McCarthy will be out after this year. And I wouldn't be surprised – actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Dak was kind of following him, just to be honest with you. I mean, I think he'll get paid eventually. CD's going to get paid. That whole holdout thing is BS. He'll get paid eventually in the next few weeks, and he'll start week 1.
He better not, in his senile age, he better not trade CeeDee Lamb to the Chiefs.
No, that whole thing with Rasheed Rice and 2 firsts, whatever that crap is.
In my opinion, with your situation, with your favorite team, I think the best you can get at this point is probably him to just say, I'm done. Steven's going to take over because all my life growing up, I couldn't understand how they didn't have a GM. Unless Steven has a change of heart, it looks like Steven wants to be basically step right into his father's shoes. Maybe that'll be a little better than 80-year-old Jerry doing as much as he does. Just let Steven do more of it. And then maybe eventually he realizes that he needed to get a GM. But
to their credit, they have put together some really good teams. I don't know if it's really Jerry. I don't know if it's really Steven. I don't know who's really pulling the strings in terms of players.
Can the comp be the New York Yankees of football?
Yeah, why not? Everyone talks about the Yankee pressure. I think the same thing could be said for Dallas or Yankee pressure because of being New York.
Good regular seasons, terrible in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they put together really good teams. They always say every year the top 2 or 3 most talented team in the NFL. And obviously, and then every single year it seems to drop off. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's Jerry Jones, but it seems like he's the common denominator. And yeah.
So let's quickly go around the league on things that we've seen with some other teams. One of the big takeaways I had from the NFL is the rookie quarterbacks. Now, they all had good things happen to them, at least in their first day, except for maybe Drake May. Didn't look too great. But Milton from Tennessee looked awesome, who came in after him. And then, I'm sorry, what I want to say was J.J. McCarthy's hurt. He needed knee surgery. And I think Bo Nix is banged up now, too. I
didn't hear that. Okay.
I thought he was banged up. I could be wrong. I thought he was banged up. But he had a real good game the first week. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, it seems like the rookies have gotten off to a good start. Caleb Williams has had a really good start. Same thing with, I know McCarthy before, obviously, last game. I know he had an early pick, but then he obviously did really well afterwards. Bo Nix played really well. Seems like they're off to a pretty good start. Obviously, that's kind of the bridge. I mean, preseason doesn't mean much, but you need to know that they could play from, coming from college.
Yep.
So knowing that they could play well, it's a good start for them going to the regular season.
What's the first thing you had on your list for takeaways?
I'm the quarterback battle in Pittsburgh. Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Obviously, it's not really a battle right now because Russell Wilson's hurt.
Yep.
So it's kind of everything up to Fields to kind of take the job if he wants it. At least that's what it seems like. He fumbled a couple times in their preseason game. And with Tomlin, that's just not going to fly. I mean, he could do a bunch of good things, but it seems like Tomlin's the guy with, if you're going to turn over the ball, then you really can't play. So I know I'm a big Fields guy. I drafted him in fantasy last year. Obviously, it didn't work out too well. He has his weeks where he just goes off, and he's like, "How in the heck is this guy not better, or or on a better team?" And then he has these weeks where it's just like, "What's going on?" I'm still higher on Fields. I still think Fields should get the start. I think we've seen Wilson. I know Tomlin's a very good coach, and I know they have the new offensive coordinator in there from last year, who I think when he took over last year, later in the year. I think Fields brings more to the table, but it would be interesting to see how Fields does in his second start.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Fields all the talent in the world, but like you said, Tomlin probably going to lean toward the guy he thinks is going to protect the football the best, and I'm going to assume that we both in agreement that Russell Wilson, although won't have nearly the big play capabilities that Fields has, will protect the ball a lot better than Justin Fields.
And before we go on to this next one, a lot of reports of Brandon Ayuk in Pittsburgh have somewhat of a deal in place too. I think they just have to, I don't know if San Francisco just has to pull the trigger on that, but obviously if they got Ayuk, that brings a whole nother dimension to them, along with Pickens that they have.
Yeah, heard that. I had heard that earlier in the day. They were just waiting for Ayuk's approval because that's actually one of the bonus things I had for my headlines was what the hell with this Ayuk situation, because it looks like 2 or 3 different teams have already agreed with San Fran, and Ayuk turned around and said, "Nah, I'm good." So the rumor was he wanted to go to Pittsburgh this whole time. So I guess we'll see if that is finally finalized. Next thing I had for you was, and our audience here, is the Kansas City wide receivers. The room, we were already up in the air about what the room was going to look like. Is Rice going to be suspended? We're still waiting on that for what he did in the offseason. I would assume most people think it's going to be 4 games. Hollywood now has hurt his shoulder, I believe, and he is doubtful, and that leaves a very vacant position, and the kid from Texas, Worthy, could play a big role in their offense.
Yeah, very similar to last year. Basically, depending on Kelsey for everything. We all know Kelsey's a little long in the tooth now, a little bit older. So I think they'll kind of bring him along. Kelsey will still be there. He'll be the number 1 option. I think there'll be a little bit of a slower start just to kind of give a little kind of rest to Kelsey. Or not rest, but like give him some little downtime, a little bit of kind of ramp him up towards the playoffs. It's going to be up to Worthy, it seems like, and Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield to kind of carry the load a little bit. We kind of been expecting the Chiefs eventually. I think last year was kind of like the year that they're gonna lose. Mahomes wasn't looking good. I remember Mahomes not looking good before the playoffs. It was like, this is the year that they're gonna fall, and all of a sudden Mahomes does Mahomes things, and they're winning another Super Bowl. I think it'll be another similar year. They won't win the AFC, I don't think. They'll win their division. They'll get in the playoffs, and then that's when they shine.
Yep, I agree. Now, what's your second thing?
Whole thing in Houston with CJ Stroud playing, starters playing, which I think is obviously it's very risky, but I think it's kind of refreshing. It seems like that Houston is kind of in that, like, no one's too good for anything. And CJ Stroud, I think, was one of the few non-rookie starters that kind of played their first preseason game. We usually used to everyone, like, if they're like an established starter, not play until like 1 drive in week 3. Yeah. And then they're good for the year. So it's good to kind of say CJ Stroud's on it, that he had a touchdown pass to Tank Dell in their preseason game. And I think between Tank Dell and Nico Collins, they're primed for a good year, a great year.
Yep. I think it's big for them, especially get chemistry with Diggs, who I wasn't a big fan of, still not a huge fan of bringing him into this situation. I do like Mixon coming in. I think that gives them more a reliable situation behind Stroud. So we'll see what happens there. My last note for you and for the rest of our listeners here is the weapons in Buffalo. We knew the wide receiver room was going to be disarray with letting go of both Diggs and Gabe Davis, but it's all over the place. Obviously, you have the kid Coleman, you have now it's escaping my brain the returner, the guy who returned to the situation to the team, but you also have Curtis Samuel. You have the two tight ends, Kincaid and Knox, and you should expect Cook to have a lot of movement in that offense. But did they lose too much? I know the defense got ravished, but did they lose too much on the offensive end to ask Josh Allen to do this much on his his shoulders and on his feet?
Yeah, no, that was the thing last year where he was like doing too much. And even with a Steph Diggs and a Gabe Davis and the weapons that they had, he might be asked to do something again. And I think he's going to be. And I think they're going to put the offense in his hands just like they always done. And if he wants to run, then he's going to run. If he wants to pass, he's going to pass. I think it's going to be very similar. I don't think their weapons are too depleted, as we're talking about. I think James Cook is a very good back. I think Kincaid's going to have a nice year with Knox. Seems like Coleman seems to be the number one from all we're hearing. So I think they'll have some weapons. I don't think they're totally at a dearth of weapons, but I think they have.
The kid Shakir is the one I was thinking about. Just came to me.
Shakir, yeah, specialty little fast guy.
Yeah. What was your third?
And last one was just another kind of a QB battle with Minshew and O'Connell. Minshew had a really good first preseason game. I believe he went 6-12 on a touchdown drive. Interesting to see. I think Minshew should get the job there. It kind of depends on what – I know Devontae Adams isn't going to really play probably until maybe week 3. But he's the one that, can sling it. That's the thing. He's a gunslinger. And he's going to throw the ball to Devontae. If they have to force feed Devontae, which they probably what they should do, since they don't have Josh Jacobs anymore. And I think do they still have Renfro on the team? Hunter Renfro. I forgot who their second receiver is.
I don't remember.
Whatever.
Myers, Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers. Yeah, and I know that actually they drafted their tight end of Notre Dame too, and they have another tight end from the year before. Kind of the names are just kind of escaping me. But they have some weapons, but Minshew, they knew they could sling it. O'Connell, they went through half a year last year of him just being babyish around it. And basically Minshew could sling it, and I think he'll get the start.
All right. So, we're well over the time we had projected for the NFL, so I'm just going to quickly touch base on fantasy things I've noticed doing the 8,000 mock drafts that I do in the months of July and August, and that number is just a slight exaggeration. It's not too high of an exaggeration. CD is dropping with this holdout. I know we both, I think, agree it's gonna end. He's gonna come back, but in the mocks, it looks like people are just a little hesitant. What if he doesn't come back? What if he gets traded and he's got to learn a new playbook? Where is he going to go? Obviously, if he goes to KC, he could arguably be the first pick in NFL drafts. There's some people that would take him over CMC if he gets traded to the Chiefs. Cooper Kupp has gotten a lot of good reports lately, and combine that with some speculation if Puka can do it again. Cooper Kupp is climbing to the point where he was going late 4th, early 5th in most mock drafts. In July, he's going early 3rd to mid 3rd, so he's moving up almost a full round from where he was.
Puka still going above him?
Puka's still going above him, but he's also slid back. I want to say what his ADP, when I first started doing mocks in end of June, early July, Puka was probably ADP around like 10, 11. He's slid all the way back to like almost 15. So he's being selected well into the second round now with all this Cup rising stuff, and Ayuk. So the Ayuk dropping with trade uncertainty. I honestly don't know if this helps him. If he goes to Pittsburgh and this finalizes, there's another target on the other side. And not that George Pickens is as good as Deebo Samuel, but There's another target, so he's not going somewhere where he's the only guy. He's the only alpha. And do you really trust either Fields or Wilson to get him the ball more than Purdy was able to get him the ball?
I think that Shanahan is really good at just game planning and putting people where they have to be, somewhat similar to Mike McDaniel in Miami. So I think their offense will just be better equipped to get Ayuk the ball than somewhere in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I do worry about how good, at least fantasy-wise, he may make their team better. I don't disagree with that. I just worry about fantasy-wise how relevant he will be because his ADP is suggesting that you need to draft him in your late second, early third round for Brandon Ayuk. I don't know that I trust Wilson or Fields to throw the ball and get him the ball enough that would dictate that type of draft pick. But I do see Debo probably jumping up a lot because of him and Kittle. I mean, CMC's not going to jump any more from 1.0, which is what he is. So, yeah, I could see if he goes to Pittsburgh, I could see Debo and Kittle also getting a bump.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to week 2, and we'll bring you another podcast probably after week 2 of the NFL. Even if we do a podcast before that, we probably won't take care of the NFL until we at least get all the week 2 results. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.